when the elevator was first introduced, there was this building where people had to wait for the elevator for quite a long time, and the number of complaints have gone up to the building. People were telling the building management that the waiting time for the elevator is too long. They're busy people, so they need to improve the situation. So when the management looked into the problem, they realized that there's not much they can do about the elevator because they were functioning at the optimum. But they started to observe the people that were waiting for the elevator, and after they observed them for a while, they realized that the problem is actually that people are bored when they're waiting for elevators. So they came up with this really interesting solution of installing mirrors near the elevators. So what happened is that when people are waiting for the elevators, then they looked at themselves in the mirror, and they straighten your tie, or they put on their makeup, or they're doing other things, and they get distracted from waiting for the elevator, and the number of complaints dropped drastically. So that is experience, right? So it's sometimes user experience design is about understanding what is the core problem that people are facing, and it may not be the most obvious thing. You might have heard a lot of failed products or failed startups, people trying to solve a problem, trying to come up with a good solution for something, and then they don't go anywhere. So usually that's because people are trying to solve the wrong problems, or they're not addressing the right problems. So user experience design is very much about talking to the users, talking to them and understanding what are their motivations, what are their pain points, what are their fears, what are their aspirations, and really understanding that. So I hope this story is helps you understand why user experience design done properly is really important. So now I like to think about your most recent good experience with a product or service. And please feel free to turn on your microphones to chime in.
I'm just thinking.
It can be about a restaurant. Yeah, it can be about going to a restaurant. It can be about using an app. It can be about traveling, and anything at all. So just think about it.
So, well, actually, I can start. Oh, Amazon, Angela, why don't you tell us which bit of Amazon? Because that's a big bit of it.
Well, given current circumstances, the fact that they pretty much keep their service levels as if nothing is happening around us. So I think that has been a really good experience with with the product, which is a platform.
Oh, hello, Angela. Sang, can you hear everything? Okay, I think
I can hear, but I also heard Angela breaking. Yeah, I think there's a.
I think we understand that point, that Amazon, despite all of these disruptions, keeps on delivering stuff to our homes when we're basically just sitting in them on webinars.
Right.
I was going to say that actually, I was going to contrast Amazon and Netflix, because I find the user experience on Netflix so much better than on Amazon Prime. So I think I totally agree with Angela that Amazon is an amazing experience of, you order something through the app and then it arrives at your door tomorrow, and it doesn't matter if it's a global pandemic. But in terms of serving you the best content to watch, you know, when you are sitting out by yourself, Netflix is much easier. Does anybody have any other experience? Like, does anybody want to contribute a recent good experience for the product or service? You can type it here if you want. Okay, let's continue.
All right.
Yep. So
cool. Thank you. So thanks for sharing those experiences, the Netflix and the Amazon. The next thing I want to look at, how do you feel about it after you have a good experience? What is your feeling, right? So Sophie, you talk about Netflix. You have a good experience using Netflix, and compared to Amazon Prime. Yes, I've also used Amazon Prime. It's not great. It's Jason said.
Oh, your audio. So Jason, why don't
your camera is working?
Why don't you type? So your camera will be at the bottom. So if you move your mouse around, and then at the bottom you should have, on the left hand side, you'd have mute and stop video. Can you see? Okay. Anyway, you can just type your questions. You can type your questions on your points if you can't find your video, but it should be on the left hand side of the screen. So Angela's saying that she feels good after an experience. You know what? I'm not sure I agree with that, because like I don't feel bad, but I don't feel anything. Like it just works.
Okay. Okay. So you don't have like a euphoric feeling, right?
Well, I mean, it depends. Look, if I'm at the Four Seasons and I get amazing service, then yeah, do I feel the same feeling from, you know, getting, I was going to say toilet paper, but actually no, if I had toilet paper delivered, I would feel euphoric.
Right.
But would I feel euphoric if I had like a book delivered via Amazon? Probably not.
Right. Okay. No, that makes perfect sense, and that's totally fine, right? We have different experiences, and we feel different things after we experience certain things, negative or positive. However, what tends to happen is when you have a good experience with something, this is what I feel. I want to do it again.
That's true.
You want to, right? So if it's not a good experience, you don't want to do it again. So that's the whole point. When you have a good experience using a service or a product, you want to do it again. So that's the difference.
Yeah.
So that's the thing that I want us to think about when we think about good experience. Now, good products and services result in us wanting to use it again. So, you know, a lot of people talk about Netflix and different other apps that they use. And if you ask people what are the tools or the apps that they use, they'll always come up with something. So user experience, let me move my thing around. If you Google user experience, you would see a lot of definitions on the internet. You will see like hundreds of definitions. This one is the one that I like the most, because it's I think it captures the essence of the what it stands for better than any of the other definitions. And this one is from the International Standard Organization. So user experience, according to their definition, is a person's perceptions and responses that result from the use in or anticipated use of a product, system, or service. I just want to throw it out there. We're not going to study this paragraph and try to understand every single word, but I just wanted to define any word or any vocabulary or any term. When we talk about something, this is what we mean. So I thought that's important, so I wanted to throw that up. So let's consider the following 3 examples. I'm going to keep moving this around because I want to know if somebody's chiming in. That's why. Okay, so we have 3 problems here. Getting from point A to point B, missing the last train, a long weekend. So you're somewhere, you want to go somewhere, you want to get from destination to a destination from your current destination. And then you have another thing, you want to go, you go out, you go to the pub partying with friends, or maybe you're just having a meeting, whatever it is, you miss the last train, you want to go home, you want to get home. And then you have a long weekend, you have some time to kill. So what kind of tools do come to mind when you have these problems? Getting from point A to point B, what app comes to your mind when you think about that?
Okay, so guys, this is your chance to type your answers.
Yeah. I'll give you 10 seconds.
Yep, perfect.
Okay, so getting from A to B, that's
Uber.
Uber.
Angela saying Uber. Yeah.
Yeah, cool.
Get it right?
Anyone else? What about when you miss the last train?
Oh, that's also Uber?
It's also Uber, right? And a long weekend, you have a long weekend, you have some time to kill, maybe different. So you might have different apps or different services for different scenarios, right? So for example, you might think of Google Maps for hi Ella. Oh, that's
Okay.
so we were talking about different problems and different scenarios and what kind of solutions or apps you might use.
So for getting from point A to point B, we've got Google Maps. For missing the last train, we've got Uber. And long weekend, somebody suggested YouTube. I think that was that was Angela. TripAdvisor.
Right. Yeah, for killing time. Yeah, for long weekends. So, you know, when I think about it, I think of Uber. You know, if I miss a train, that's the thing that I think of. And if a long weekend, I think of Netflix, right? So those are the things. Those are your go-to. So coming back to our good experience, I want to use it again. I want to do it again. You remember these apps because the last time you used them, you had a good experience. They didn't fail you. So this is really important. Apps are just tools that help you solve your problems. And if you have a good experience and it helps you to solve your problems, then you would have a good experience as an user of those apps. So what is UX design? UX design is about solving problems. And like we look at the story of the elevator, the real problem was boredom. People are bored waiting for the elevator. It wasn't necessarily about the elevator. So understanding what the users have as problems and solving those, that's the key point about UX design. And it's about creating products and services. Sorry, my dog's barking. Just give me a second. She's excited. Molly, you're too noisy. We're having a meeting. Come here. Come here. I'm sorry.
Children and dogs.
This is what life is, right? This is living.
Yeah, well, we all remember the BBC dad, right? You know, with the kids. Anyway, so you were saying UX design is creating products and services that people want to use. And you've got people want to use in red. Why is that?
Right, people want to use because it's not about creating products that people have to use, right? So sometimes your tools that you have to use. If you work in a company, most of HR tools are terrible. Most of enterprise apps are difficult to use because they focus on the functionality and not on the usability, right? But you know, coming back to Angela's example of Amazon. Amazon is an app you want to use. It's a service you want to use because you know it works. Netflix is a service you want to use. You want to use the apps because it works better than Amazon Prime. So you want to create apps and tools and services that people want to use. So that's what user experience design is about. It's not just about creating a product or a service. So that being said, what goes into UX design? How do you design UX? When you think about UX, it's about, you know, I can't stress enough the importance of the word user in that user experience design that here's all of the things that you might want to think about, right? So when you think about the user, if you go to the left where you see the user's considerations, you know that users have goals. right? So they use an app to achieve a certain goal. For example, you would use Netflix to entertain yourself. It's not about the Netflix, it's about you. You would use Google Maps to get to a destination where you want to have a good time with your friends. So you would use another tool, let's say Uber, to get to your destination. You would use other tools like Mindful Chef that will deliver grocery to you, banking apps, right? So these are all just tools that help you achieve your goals. And it's really important to understand what are the goals of the users. Here's a few examples that I listed down, right? So like identity, so status, logistics, communication, information, entertainment, social interaction. These are all goals that users have, and they use tools to achieve them. And sometimes those tools happens to be apps. Sometimes they happen to be hammer. If they're building a house, sometimes it happens to be a car. So when you think about the users, you also think about what are the tasks that they have, right? So they perform several tasks to achieve their goal, and how are you helping them achieve those tasks, complete those tasks in order to achieve the goals. And then you also have to consider their attention. Are they focused? Are they partially focused? Are they distracted? Are they doing things on the move? In order to understand that, we also want to look at the wider picture of the context. So if you're building a service or a solution for users, you want to think about where they're using your service. Where are they using it at home? Are they using it on the move, while on the train? All of those things will have an impact on how you want to consider, offline support. You might want to do that. You might want to think about the connectivity that they have with the internet, things like that. And then more importantly, even the cultural side, right? So different things mean different things, and people from different cultures will have different values and motivations. And those are all the things that you want to think about. And then on the right side, you have device capabilities. So are they using a mobile phone? Are they using a tablet? Are they using TV? So these are all of the things that you want to think about when you design for the users. And this is what goes into user experience design. And of course, this is not an exhaustive list, but this is just to give you an idea of all of the considerations that you have to give when you design for the users.
If you want to hear the rest of my interview with Sang, then join me at Tech For Non-Techies. It is my absolutely favorite place to be. Tech is just full of jargon, and that's exactly what we're busting at Tech For Non-Techies. You're going to get unique materials on how apps and sites are made, and you're going to get all of the recordings of our previous webinars and all of our events with product managers, investors, some really cool founders, and obviously designers. So come check us out at techfornontechies.co.